Hi, everyone. It's A Ticket to Christ. Thank you for tuning back in. We are still in the Courage series. We're looking at Noah. We're not going to read the whole thing, but this is courage in the midst of a global disaster, or maybe a national disaster or a local disaster. When you are facing a lot of uncertainty. We look here, we see Noah, and we've heard the story all of our lives, most of us. But I don't think that we ever, many people really think about what it must have been like for Noah. It says in Genesis chapter 7, and the Lord said unto Noah, Come thou and all thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of every clean beast thou shalt take to thee by sevens, the male and his female, and of beasts that are not clean by two, and the male and his female. Of fowls also of the air by sevens, the male and the female, to keep seed alive upon the face of all the earth. For yet 7 days, and I will cause it to rain upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and every living substance that I have made will I destroy from off the face of the earth. And Noah did according unto all that the Lord commanded him. Now that is incredible. It's incredible because Noah is told by God that he's going to wipe out the whole planet. Everything. Everything. And God gives him specific instructions about how to preserve the planet. So imagine that's you and you're getting this revelation, or the Lord comes, tells you, I'm going to wipe out the planet again. And here's what I want to do. How would you feel? How would that make you feel? What would be going through your mind? How would you talk about it with your family? And then, I think as well, maybe he didn't even have time to think a lot because there was just so much to do. And I think it took him 100 years to complete everything. So there was a long period of time of probably sharing and trying to warn people. And then if you look at after, when the flood took place and the ark landed, we look at Genesis 8, verse 20. It says, And Noah builded an altar unto the Lord, and took of every clean beast and of every clean fowl, and offered burnt offerings on the altar. And the Lord smelled a sweet savor. And the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done. While the earth remaineth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night shall not cease. And so, but between getting to the land and, the first time God told him what would happen, and then seeing it happen, it must have taken a lot of courage to handle the task, the responsibility, not only for your family, but for all of the animals that needed to be preserved, and following the instructions that God gave fully and completely. And then once he's on that water, right, hearing the torrents of water and hearing the screams of the people, it must have taken a lot of courage to be in there. Maybe the ark was, you couldn't hear anything on the outside. Maybe the wind was howling so loud you couldn't hear anything. You never know. But just being in there and being tossed on the waves, it would have, taken a lot of courage. They must have been praying. They must have been really very sober. It must have been really a hard time to go through that. And, it might be you Maybe you got revelation of something that's going to happen. Maybe you are embarking on something major, a major change in your life. You're moving, you're leaving one country, going to another country, or you're making a major career change, or just a season and time of your life has shifted in a way that you could never have envisioned. That it's a new beginning. It feels like a whole new world. And that takes courage. It takes really believing, first of all, and understanding that God is calling you to it. But first of all, you want to make sure that God is calling you to it, because God definitely called Noah and gave him this assignment and chose him for it. And it was because Noah was found to be righteous in the eyes of God, right? So if you're clear that God has called you somewhere, you can rest on, God's character, his promises. But just like with Noah, he had to follow God's instructions and, the exact specification to, a male and a female, and exactly what God said to put there and how. He had to do that. He had to build the ark exactly the way God said to do it. So one of the things that help you have courage, it's an understanding of that you're walking in the will of God and in obedience to God, that you're doing what he says to do, that you're not in any way lying. Sometimes if you have past things in your past that you're ashamed about, say you're filling out a resume or an application, the temptation could be there for you to lie or to not be forthright. You have to be honest, because that is not, God is not going to bless a lie. Even if you get away with it, you're going to always have that, where the enemy can use that as a foothold. So you definitely want to walk in truth, right? You definitely want to, be upfront and on the up and up, and just trust that if God has something for you, he's going to work it out for you. There's nothing that is worth that intimacy with God and knowing that you're in his will. That's the safest place that you can possibly be. And so I think Noah was very confident because he was doing God's will, and he was very careful to follow what God said to do. Another thing that could help you have courage is just really taking time out to worship the Lord. You see, when Noah landed here, he built an altar unto the Lord, verse 20, and had a sack. That was the way they did it that back then, made a burnt offering. Thank God that we no longer have that. We have a relationship with God through Jesus. And so our sacrifice is a sacrifice of praise and worship, but just really taking the time out to worship God and to give him thanks and to honor him. That's going to strengthen you in your faith and really build your courage for the task, because it's focusing you on the power of God, on who God is, and not on yourself. So beloved, that's it from me today. I encourage you to study out Noah. If you're starting out on something major that is daunting, that's a big task, that makes you feel like you're the only person in the world tasked with doing it, he's a good one to study through, and just really looking at, thinking through how it must have felt, how he must have felt, and how intimidating it might have been potentially to be in that type of situation. So that's it from me, beloved. I hope this blessed you in some small way. God loves you. Take care.